It's so good.
Welcome to the pod.
안녕하세요. We're your hosts. I'm Lois.
And today, we have the Korean snacks today. We have kimbap.
Woo!
What's on the inside of the kimbap?
We have a bulgogi kimbap,
Yeah.
a beef one, and then a udon, like a fish cake one.
Love.
And what better pairing than to have ramen with our kimbap? So if we're like slurping and snacking away this episode, don't mind us.
Snack
we
with us.
are hungry.
Snack
So I guess this will be like a mukbang podcast.
Yes.
So hopefully this will be like a fun YouTube video. But I'm so hungry, so I'm a snack on this. But I mean, we're
Snack
having
with us.
what are we talking about today, Irene?
Today, it's going to be about our culture as Korean Americans, the pains and gains that come with it.
Yeah.
So pros and cons, whatever you want
Pros
to call
and
it.
cons.
So we're ready to dive in with our traditional snacks.
I mean, because our podcast name is like 안녕하세요, and our tagline is peeling back the layers of our culture, identity, and we want to get to the culture part. So yeah, I think it'd be fun to talk about the pains and gains of our culture, specific to Korean American culture, which I think could bleed into like Asian American culture, immigrant family culture. But yeah, I think there's like just so much we can say about this topic. But I don't know, part of me wanted to start with the bad stuff and then get into the good stuff. I was like, let's just start with the good stuff. Like, what are we proud of? I mean, like,
Let's be happy first.
I mean, obviously, right off the bat, it's like food, like K-food culture. Like, I feel like these days it's so popular to go to like K barbecue. Like,
even as a non-Korean, it's like really
exactly,
into different cultures.
Exactly. That's why it's like so exciting to like be a Korean right now.
What would you say are your favorite like Korean food? That is like your top two.
So hard, but I love. I don't know why I always say 보쌈. I love 보쌈.
That, for anyone who doesn't know, is like pork.
It's like a slow boiled pork with cabbage and like kimchi, a sort of kimchi, but it's like a wrap. But I love 보쌈, and I love I don't know, like any jjigaes, like soups, like the soup or the stew.
Like soon tofu.
Yeah.
Tofu.
I always say, like, I feel so bad for the people who will die without ever having tried sudoku or this.
Tofu soup.
Yeah, or like, it's just so sad. It's like we have such good food.
I think it's interesting because as Koreans or as any Asian, I'm like, I need rice.
Yes.
At least for one meal.
Uh-huh.
When I'm traveling at different places, I'm like, the food is delicious, but as soon as I come home, the first thing I want to eat after a travel day is like shin ramen, which is like, a little packet of noodles, and it's spicy, and it just like hits. I think what Korean people do really well is, when it comes to our snacks, it's like the savory and sweet combination. Like our snacks have both combined, so you get both. Yeah. And for food, it's like, a lot of us can handle the heat, the spice. A lot of it's spicy.
Not me.
Not always, but a lot of it's supposed to make you like go do that sound, So I think
like this.
Nice. So yeah, I think like I feel proud as a Korean American when I hear people who are not even Korean be like, I love KBBQ. Now that's like saying like I like pho to a Vietnamese person. It's like one of the basics, right? but at least it's getting people's like foot in the door of like what Korean cuisine is like, because it's so complex. Like the way that we eat, it's like we have a lot of side dishes that come with our rice dish, and that's not even the main course. It's like the additives, and like we're so used to that kind of offering. When it comes to other cuisines, like you can just get your main course and that's it. So yeah, I think for me, my favorite, which, you know, it's probably not a common opinion, but I really like hidopa.
Whoa!
Which is like, for those who don't know what that is, it's like sashimi with a red paste like sauce that you put on top of a bed of rice and lettuce.
I mean, it's basically like a poke bowl, but Korean style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just came back from a trip, and it's the first thing I ate when I came back. It's either ramen or that, because I feel like it's somewhat healthy, even though it's probably not. But I just like the fresh taste of it, and just like the mixing of the bowl. You know, it's kind of like bibimbap, which is basically like mixed rice with like meat, but with fish, like sashimi fish.
Yeah.
I would say that, and I really like kamjatang, which is basically like potato stew.
Yeah, it's like a potato stew.
Yeah, it's a fun term.
And I feel like when we say it in English, it sounds so vanilla.
Plain,
or so like potato stew. Okay,
no,
but it's like no, you have
there's depth, and it's like good for like a cold day.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about Korean culture is like when it's cold, we eat cold food, and when it's hot, we eat like hot food. Because I think the methodology there is like when it's hot, you're gonna sweat it out, so you're gonna cool yourself down and sweat it out. And then when you're cold,
you just like you go to Korea. I only know this through social media and just through friends. You go to Korea in the wintertime when it's like freezing cold, and everyone will still get an iced Americano.
Yes.
Like that's like the thing.
And I'm hot blooded, so I will always get an ice drink no matter what. I just find that very interesting.
Yeah, it's like a thing. Yeah.
You'd be like hot in the summertime, and then my parents would be like, "Let's eat something hot." I'm like, "It's hot though. It's supposed to cool you down." I don't know the logic, but yeah, I would say those two are my favorites. But Korean food is like in my top cuisine. So
yeah,
maybe I'm a little biased.
Yeah,
but
it's just a safe, like it's like comfort food. Mm-hmm. Like that's just what I want, you know.
You know what I find hilarious though is like okay when I don't know about you, but when I was younger, I would be so ashamed to bring the Korean food because the smell.
No, that's the thing too that I like want to talk about is like gain, I guess, is that now it's popular,
normalized.
I remember growing up, like I wanted to bring kimchi.
Which is fermented cabbage.
Yeah, and like rice and seaweed. And everyone's like, ew, seaweed? Is that seaweed? Now in everyone's regular school lunches, you go to Costco and you're like, oh, here's the laver. Like the salted laver. And I'm like, what is the laver? It's seaweed. It's real seaweed.
Even in my office as a snack, they offer like seaweed. I'm like, this is
you're like,
rice.
dude, would you like a seaweed snack? It's great for your body. Like, oh, like this is how I got rid of my acne is I started eating kimchi. And I'm like you know,
we had that.
Like, I know.
But I'm like, I want to say like, no, you eat this with rice. You're doing it wrong. But it's so funny that it's like in Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
Like, and it's a snack.
Exactly.
Like a little bite-sized snack.
Well, times have changed for the better, I guess. But
now you can have that proudly.
I know, but it's just like,
it took so many years.
Yeah, my childhood self that like, you know. Oh man, I think another thing that I'm proud of our culture as you snack, I'll let you know. Is like I think just like K culture in general has just picked up so much in our world today. Food is a big one, but also K-pop. Hello, like we had an episode talking about BTS.
Woo!
I think like I'm so proud of like where we've come as a culture, and just like with Korean food where I used to be ashamed because everyone's like your food is smelly, I used to low-key be ashamed of like our culture is even with music, and I think I touched on it briefly when we talked about BTS, but like when first gen K-pop was huge, I think first gen, so like Big Bang, Soyeonshide, like that kind of K-pop, like that's when I was like, oh my god, I love them. And then I had a phase where I got a little bit embarrassed of K-pop because I don't know, because maybe Gangnam Style was at the forefront of what K-pop was supposed to look like, and everyone's doing the Gangnam Style dance, and I'm like, I felt embarrassed. I'm like, oh, that's not me. Like I'm embarrassed. But I think when I started seeing BTS climbing into the US and being on the US charts and being on US radio, I was like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's like not only a testament to their like you know, like what they've achieved, but it's just like such a testament to like how far we've come as a culture and as a country. And I don't know, like K-pop is like, I don't even know if it should be considered K-pop. You know what I mean? Like it's so global, it's so like popular.
Like even right now, there's that Apatu song with Rose and
exactly.
Bruno
Like
Mars.
American artists are like fighting to collaborate with like Korean artists. You know,
and now people know that apartment game, which is like a drink.
I know. That's
I
what's
know.
great. I didn't even know.
Now
That's like
I
a.
know.
I know. That's why I'm like, this is crazy. Like, what is happening right now?
Yeah, I can kind of fall into that too. Before I got into BTS, I was kind of like, you guys like listen to your K-pop thing. I'm gonna stick to my American music. But even like as a Korean American, like I was falling to that too because I'm like used to the Western style of things, and then I don't know, as little things come by, like the love for like my culture grew. As like, for example, Parasite. You know, very iconic movie. And if you haven't seen it, I definitely should. I think what Koreans do well, whether it be Parasite or Squid Game, and Squid Game 2 is coming out soon, we're so excited, is the way they do storytelling. So I think what people don't understand about Parasite, if they haven't watched it yet, is, or if they have, it's about the class system between different tiers, right? And I don't think you would know that right off the bat. You would have to kind of like do a deep dive. And even Squid Game, kind of like that too. It's kind of like touching on a deeper subject, but in a way that is digestible through the art of, you know, the film or whatever. And I don't know if other people have seen this, but there's also a show called The 8 Show from Netflix, which is also Korean, and that is also based on class system. But then the way that they execute these films to showcase that in such a brilliant way, like, is amazing. Like, another good example, so many, is Culinary Class Wars.
I mean, just K shows and dramas, right? I think, like, K dramas in itself is like its own world.
Yes.
And I love seeing non-Korean people who are like hardcore K drama fans.
Yes.
Because rightfully so, like K drama is its own subject of like storytelling, of like there's such a vast array and like such a wide variety of K dramas, but there's always like a specific kind of formula that we all know and love, which
the love trope.
The love trope. Like, I think something that is so infamous in K dramas is the way love stories like move so slowly, and we love it.
But in Western, it's like very quick.
Yeah, like it's so common to see a couple like sleep together in the first episode, but K dramas could never.
No.
Like
episode 14 that they hold
hands and then they maybe kiss. But it's just like such a formula that we know and love, and it's just so specific to this genre. And like the storytelling too. Like there are some dramas like are so good. Like Hospital Playlist, Reply 1988. Like the storytelling, the heart that is behind these dramas is just so like, oh, you know what I mean? Like that I'm so proud of.
Yeah.
And that people resonate with, whether they're Korean or not.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
And it's like become such a part of our society that like it's like from the music to the movies to the shows, it's in traditional media outlets and on radio that it's like, oh wow, like you don't know about this? It's like it's the it thing right now. Yeah. Even now, like I remember rose tteokbokki, which is like rose flavored rice cakes, was like a trend in Korea, but it came to America, and like people were like, "Oh my god, this is so good!" Yeah. And it's just like a testament to like our culture in general, where it's infiltrating in America and beyond so quickly. And I respect people who have a love for K culture that aren't even Korean, and they're out here like learning Korean and being better than they are, or people who are born as
putting me to shame.
Putting us to shame for sure. And it just shows like how music and media, like it transcends any language, and people are willing to do what they will do to learn or whatever.
Yeah. I think another thing of K culture, this is like, I think this is a pro and con though, that I think some people can see as a pro and some people can see as a con. And I would say it's like the shame and honor culture in Korea. There's a lot of cons to that we'll get to when we talk about the pains. But I also think there's such a like beauty to that culture that we see in Korea, because like here, like there isn't this strong sense of like honoring your elders. Like I think we understand that we need to respect people who are a little bit older than us, or like at least like we understand hierarchy, right? And like we have to respect our bosses, we have to respect people in higher positions than us. But I think in Korea that's like really strong. And like I think just in general in Asian American cultures it's so strongly embedded. And I think there's a beauty with that of like respecting our elders and honoring them, and like using 존댓말, which is like a formal way of speaking to elders that doesn't really exist in the English language. And like speaking to your parents or grandparents and calling them like 엄마, 아빠, 어머니, 아버님, like whatever. Whereas like not to like judge or whatever, but like in American households where like you walk in, you see grandma, hey Barbara, like oh that's my father-in-law, hey Alan, like I could never,
Yeah,
like you know
that's
what I
really
mean? That's really weird, like, and I think some people would praise that kind of culture because I think it breeds like a sense of intimacy and closeness when you're able to call someone by their first name. But for me, it's like I think for both of us, like I could never. Like,
it's like we're gonna go smack, you know.
I know it's like such a deeply embedded thing, and like even for older siblings and things like that. Like I mean nowadays I'm able to call my sister like hey Sharon ish, but I still call her 언니. Like I can't.
My older sister.
I feel weird not calling her 언니, which is the word for older sister, or 오빠, which is for older brother, and it's just like a weird. It's just like a respect thing that I still think is really important to hold as a Korean American.
Yeah. I think there's a mixed bag with that, because I do understand like the respect thing, but having come from or being born in America, like there's something about like voicing your opinion, which I feel like in Korean culture kind of lacks. Like it's either you listen to your elder, and there's no if, ands, or buts, but sometimes there, like when it comes to the mixing of the two cultures, it's kind of hard, because like coming from the background that I am as a Korean American, like in Western culture, you're taught to fight for what you want, you know, be vocal. But in Korean culture, you're just expected to listen and accept no matter what. And I think there's like a good middle ground to both of them. I think there's rights to both, but there needs to be a middle, because I'm not one way and I'm not the other way. I'm like more the middle. So I think there's a balance to the respect thing too. Because what I learned recently and come to terms with is like our parents are growing up too. Like, you know, they're not perfect, and like it's up to us to educate them too. But there's these systems in place, you know, from how they grew up versus how we grew up. So there's like a battle, if you will, amongst the two. Yeah.
I mean, that's like, I guess, the cons too of like the dangers of that kind of and the toxicity that it could breed, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, any other gains that you can? I mean, skincare even.
Oh, woo! We are ahead of the game.
I know, truly. Like Korean skincare is its own like genre of skincare these days.
Yeah, I think Korean culture is like way ahead of its game. Yeah. I think like Western culture is always trying to play catch up.
Yeah.
I think parts of it are genetic, you know, which we were born with our families, but also, they have such high importance and emphasis of that in Korea that like it's like the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
You know, people go there specifically to get certain skincare, certain like treatments. It's crazy. I don't know why, but we just are. Because I guess they just focus on their face.
Yeah.
And beauty.
I mean, which leads to toxic. Yeah. I know, truly. I think another one that I want to touch on, which is a little bit more niche and like specific to like Korean Christians, that to this day, I feel very thankful for in the Korean culture. Like if you go to a Korean church, or if you grew up going to a Korean American church, it's the culture of prayer. that is really strong. And it's like, I feel like, because even if you're not a Christian, I feel like if you're a Korean, like this is something you're very aware of and very could have been exposed to, that I'm very grateful for. Of like it's funny because like I grew up in a big Korean American church, and so like first gen, they're all like immigrant, the immigrant generation, like just prayer was like their big thing, right? And then it was funny, we would have these things called like early morning prayer or 새벽기도, where literally like they would do like a 2-week little event where every day we would go to church early in the morning at like 5 a.m. to like pray and worship, which is psychotic to anyone who like doesn't understand what that is. They're like, what? But it'd be crazy because we would have these speakers come who are not Korean, who would come, and these are like big time speakers too, like big names in the Christian world, who would come and also be like, this is so like impressive, and this is so specific to like the Korean culture, like Korean American culture of like, we rarely see this unless it's like with this Korean American immigrant church. And
not like devotion.
Yeah, but it's just like that like fervor and like fervent prayer that I still feel very proud of as a Korean American. Like very like, it's so near and dear to my heart. I feel like
you experience that more than I. So
yeah.
It's interesting to hear.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we touched on a lot of gains with some cons, but there are a lot of cons.
There are
a lot of cons, and we are aware of those. So let's dive in because there's more of those.
What's one that you want to? I'll get into one.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit.
For sure.
I mean, we talked about skincare. We talked about like how that goes to beauty standards, and I think a big one. I want to specifically talk about a pain point that is specific to my experience, and it's low key about beauty standards, and specifically for me about like my body image. I think that's a thing that I wanted to like bring up because I mean I never felt the need to get my face done. I never felt the need to like, like the typical things you go to Korea and like, I'm gonna get my eyes done, my nose done. Like, I'm okay with all of that. But I think something that has impacted me is my body image. Because like you go to Korea and everyone is so skinny. I think. And like, I think just genetically Asians are smaller people. And so that's just like the norm that you see in the majority that you see is like to see these really skinny people. And that's just like norm. And so for me growing up, like I was actually super skinny. I think some people will say I'm still skinny. Thank you. But like I was hella skinny growing up and my metabolism was like crazy, which I was thankful for. Yeah. Like the thing is I would eat like crazy. Like I always had a good appetite. I was a really good eater, but I would like eat. And then my bowel movements were great. So it's just like, it would be a constant pattern of like, I would eat a lot and I'm trying, but people would be like, you're so skinny. But I think what impacts me to this day is that people will be like, you're so skinny. Oh, 너무 이뻐. Oh, so pretty. And really like praise my skinniness. And I think it's really common to walk into your family's like Thanksgiving dinner and all your aunties and grandmas see you skinny and are like, oh my god, you're so beautiful. You're so skinny. You're so beautiful.
But let's say you gain 5 pounds. The first thing they mention is like,
exactly. Oh, like you gained weight. And it's just like, oof. Yeah, literally. And like at one point, I felt like I was like unhealthy skinny looking. I was eating well, so I don't think I was unhealthy, but I just looked like so skinny. Like you can wrap my wrist around like easily like this. So at one point when I gained some weight, people will be like, oh, you look healthy. I'm like, okay, cool. But then, I hit my mid-20s, my metabolism, takes a little hit, like we all do. And I started gaining weight a little bit more easily. And the comments would be, oh, it's hard to admit, like, you gained weight.
Which I don't know why they bring it up.
I know, but that's like, that's such a Korean thing is that like that's the first thing they bring up is they either feel the need to bring up how your weight gain or your relationship status or having kids. You know what I mean? Like it's
literally a
like literally like, oh, like you gained weight. Oh, are you getting married yet? Are you dating? And then if you are getting married, are you having children? And it's like just kind of like oof oof oof.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like, slow down.
I know, like
I haven't even sat down.
I'm just happy. But yeah, I think to be honest, like that has affected me when I hit my mid-20s and started gaining weight a little bit more, which I feel like I wasn't even like gymongous, you know? I felt like I just looked like a normal human being. And like I think people can also be like, well, there's unhealthy beauty standards in America too, which is correct. But if you think the beauty standards here are bad, ooh. It's so much more toxic, I think, in Korea.
Yeah.
And then I think to be surrounded by moms and aunties and grandmas who come from that culture where it's so strongly embedded doesn't really help, I think. And so, I think that, and I think it comes to us too. It like bleeds into us. Like we try not to, but it's so easy for us to also look at our friend and be like, oh, you're so skinny.
Like
unconsciously, like so good, you know? And then
like,
it's like,
in a good way, but it's like, what do you?
Yeah, so I think definitely like I've struggled with body image more so in my late 20s and now, and then especially postpartum did not help. Like, good God. It's like, you know, it's tough.
I think I can relate to you on that because what I wanted to bring up in terms of beauty is the fact that, like, I think presenting yourself well is a good thing, but up to a certain point, because what we often face is like Korean culture is a lot about looks, like how you present yourself, like how you dress could dictate like how you're treated, because it's like a status thing, like you know, at church they would say Sunday best, right? You have to dress to the nines to be presentable because people are going to judge you, and like that's in America too. Like you're going to be judged for the way that you look.
Yeah.
Yes, but especially in Korean culture, where it's like if you're not dressed a certain way, they're gonna look down on you or like think you're not capable or like suitable for whatever reason. Like there's like that first layer of judgment just from that, like from how you look and what you wear. And so I remember my mom would always be like, "Oh, make sure to always like look presentable because you never know what like who you're gonna meet."
Yeah.
And I think in practice, it's like practical, like like always look your best. But then I think it becomes toxic when it's like fully ingrained and like they're mixing that with like weight and like all this stuff. Because even now, like I would say, man, like when I was like in high school, I thought the weight that I was then, I was fat. But like I'm like a little bit more than that right now, and I'm like, damn. I look back at those pictures, I'm like, damn, I was skinny. I can't believe I thought I was fat. And right now, I'm like, you know, like I gained a little bit, but I'm like, dang, like you're trying to like lose that weight because there's this quote unquote beauty standard of like a certain number is beautiful, which is very toxic. Which is what we're trying to fight against, right? Because that's a lot of the toxic Korean mindset that, like, you know, us as millennial Gen Z, we're trying to break. Because it's not healthy too.
What's like, what are your thoughts on the culture with like plastic surgery and like that's not something you see a lot here, I guess, Korean American wise, but it's just like something that's very like in our minds because like if people want to get work done, they go to Korea and they get work done. But especially in Korea, like I think it's so normal to get work done.
It's like a present that you get when you're 18 years old. Like a gift. Like, oh, you graduated, here's your present. Like first thing, like eyelid surgery. I think before, like, I had a certain mindset of it, but now I'm like, if it's something that'll make you happy, like, do it. Like, if it's for your self-confidence and you need that, like, I'm not here to judge you for it. Because, you know, I've also had those thoughts, and, like, I think everyone has their reasonings for doing certain things, and, like, as long as you're secure in yourself and, like, know the reasons of why you're doing something, and it's not out of just pure validation, but just like, you just want to like upkeep yourself. Which I think is fine.
Yeah.
I think we've progressed as a society a lot where it used to be like very anti like plastic surgery, but now it's like you only live once.
Yeah.
Like, if you feel like you need it for something and it's gonna make you happy, like confident, like sure.
Yeah.
But make sure you're doing it for the right reasons and not because of I don't know, someone said something and you're like, I gotta fix, you know. But like let's say like that is inspiring me to do it, like all means like it's your face. Yeah. It's your body. But be safe. Yeah. You know, do your research. Do everything. Yeah. Because that's
you just never
know. You can't like reverse it.
I know. I just asked because it's like I don't know if this would be seen as a pain or like a toxic thing, but because it's so normal in Korea, and also because I feel like we've had friends and we know people who have gotten work done, and like maybe one day I'll get my eyes done. Who knows? But I just like I guess I'm just curious like what the kids in Korea, how they feel about that and like how it could impact their mental health. I'm just curious. I'm not even like we don't even have an answer, but I'm just kind of like to live in a world where like everyone gets double eyelid surgery, where everyone gets their nose done, and it's so easily accessible. Yeah. I'm just wondering like what kind of like how that could affect young growing children.
For sure.
I don't know.
I feel like it's like it'll make you like only think about your looks, right? Because Korea culture is also about dating. Like if you're not with somebody, you're like seen as less than, and like I feel like it's tied together, like your looks and that, like somehow, some way showcases your status in society. Because they all celebrate something called Hae, which is 100 days of dating somebody, and literally like. When you go to Korea, like people are coupled up.
I mean, I was gonna ask you about that. Like Korean dating culture is so intense.
Very intense.
It's so intense. Like you were saying, like everyone's coupled up. And again, I haven't been to Korea in a while, but everyone who's gone in the past year will say the same thing. Is that like it's weird to be at a cafe alone. That's what I heard. It's because like everyone is coupled up. Everyone is like matching. It's not even just coupled up. Like they're wearing matching coupled gear. Yeah. Like they celebrate every little holiday. Like there's like made up holidays for couples in Korea. Yeah. Like 100th Day is a huge thing. White Day, which is kind of like a Valentine's Day in Korea. There's Valentine's Day and White Day, I think. Like they celebrate both. There's Pepero Day, which
that just passed.
On November. I actually forgot this year. Like which is like on November 11th, 11/11, which is Veterans Day for us in America. In Korea, it's like you give your lover these snacks called pepero, which are these like little stick chocolatey things.
I don't really know the correlation, but
I don't know either. But it's just like why not? You know? But it's just like funny to me. Yeah, and it's cute to a certain extent. I feel like, but also so toxic if like. It just makes you feel so less than if you're single.
Exactly. And, like, I think it's also, like, if you're not married by a certain age in Korea, you are seen as, like, less than, like, you weren't a catch. Yeah. And that kind of sucks.
I feel like there might be a word for that. Like, for women at a certain age who are still single. I don't know it off the top of my head.
Like, I think I would be looked as that in Korea.
Yeah, maybe once you hit your 30s. Or even late 20s. Yeah. But it's, like... I don't know. I feel like we're making progress in America here where, like, people are more accepting of, like, getting married late and, like, women freezing their eggs and things like that. But I feel like, freezing your eggs, I feel like, is still really taboo in Korea. I don't know. I don't live there. But from what I just have seen and heard, maybe.
Yeah, it's just weird. Like, why is dating, like, tied to your self-worth? Like what, like, because you're able to snatch someone, you know? And I think... As we talk about this, I'll go into something that I think is a con in our book, is like, Koreans are known to have anger issues. And that's like a con of it. And we can say that because we're Korean.
K-rage.
K-rage, yes. And, like, what if people are just dating people to say they're dating someone, but there's a lot of things that happen behind closed doors that you don't know about, and like, people are actually suffering too. Yeah. And it's just for the status of like, I got someone, but I'm suffering because, you know, they have K-rage or whatever. Because But abuse is prevalent in Korea of like, you know, husbands hitting their wives, and it's just like, I don't think it's right, but it's something that like irks me about culture too, especially like older generation. And that sucks.
I think there's still a strong like patriarchal kind of like system and culture in Korea where men are still seen as like, and this goes for like, I mean, it's like a global issue, right? Yeah. But like in Korea, we see it a lot where men are like still seen as like alpha. We see that here too. But I know that, yeah, I think for us growing up too, like I think what breeds into it being toxic is this idea still of like men don't cry, men don't show emotion. I think that is still so strong, and that's what makes it so dangerous. There's so many other layers as to why it can be dangerous, but I think that's what we see because a lot of us growing up in our immigrant households, like a lot of us can easily be like, yeah, my dad didn't really say I love you. Like my dad wasn't that affectionate. He didn't hug me, but he did XYZ, right? And that's like something like the whole like cutting fruit thing, right? Like my parents didn't say I love you, but they would cut up fruit for me and leave it in my room. Like that was how they showed love. And that I feel like it's so specific to the immigrant household and to like the immigrant experience, and like there's a sentiment to that that's so special, but also a sentiment of that to be grieved, I think, when you're kind of like, oh, why can't my dad just say I love you? Why can't my dad? Yeah. You know, I think we're grateful for all the ways they show love. Like, oh, my dad worked overtime every single day, and my dad worked so hard. He would come home, he would be exhausted. I'm so grateful. Yeah. But I think it's okay to also be sad and grieve the fact that I wish my dad was just more affectionate. Or I wish my dad literally 100%. Just said, I love you, or 100%. Showed emotion, showed like that he loved me. You know what I mean? I think so many people like feel that.
And I think coming from like that, and then being a Korean American, it's like there's miscommunication that's bound to happen because like all we want is like vocalization, but like all they're used to is like through action. Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't resonate, right? But then we only know as we get older because we understand our culture better and like where our parents are coming from. But when you're younger, you're like, "What's up?" Yeah, like, he doesn't even say.
You just want to be held and you want to be told that you're loved. But
all right, let's keep this train going because I have another one.
Yes, go for it.
Academics.
Ooh.
Man. Okay, so
Kumon, anybody?
In Korea, it's all about academia. Like your rank, your status is also tied to that. And so it's all about studying for hours and hours. Like
I want to paint a picture for the people who literally don't know. And I don't even know how intense this is, but like I don't think people understand that like kids in Korea will go to school. Like imagine your full school day. And then like 9 to 5, they're at school 9 to 5, and then they have their 5 to 9. Like,
tutor.
All these kids go to like, it's called hagwon or like academy, like an after school tutoring, whatever. They're in school all day, and then after they study more. Like these kids are like their faces in their books all day, and then they come home to study more, like
and eat and sleep.
Yeah,
I've had experience that when I was in school because it's just like prevalent.
And then it leads into here because a lot of the Asian American kids here who are second gen, that's the parents, that's all they know. And so that's why there's these things called Kumon that my white friends never heard of. Elite Academy.
Prepping for SATs, prepping for college.
There's like all these things like college prep and SAT prep, like it's insane. Like
So I remember like people would ask me like, oh, would you want to have been born here or like live here? And I'm like, I think Korea is a great place to visit, but like I don't think I would want to live there because it's so intense. Like when you're in school, all you know is school, right? And they rank you as well. Yeah. So like if you're not within the top, like I don't know, 10%, like that's a problem. Yeah, that's a problem, right? And the number of hours you're studying, like I feel like that's why there's such a heavy like drinking culture in Korea too, because Korea you drink a lot earlier, but there's so much stress, and it's just like I guess a good escape. Even when you're working in Korea, like it's part of the Korean culture to like eat out with your colleagues
and drink
yeah. And like if you don't, it's like looked down upon.
Yeah.
So it's like heavy drinking culture, heavy
high stress,
academia,
high pressure
culture, everything combined.
I think in Korea they even have like studios or like apartment buildings that are literally solely for kids who are like, prepping for I think there's a big exam like you know with the SATs here in Korea there's a big exam I think for college prep but it's like way more intense way more like I don't know but like they literally some of these kids prepping in lieu of that exam and like during their last year of high school or whatever like literally live in these like study rooms where it's like the room is like a studio. It's literally their bed and their desk. Like there's only room to study and sleep, and like that's it. Like I think those things exist in Korea. Like,
but like
really crazy.
I do want to flip the script of like Korea was like a growing country back then. You know, we didn't have a lot, and like now it's like a booming country, and that comes from the grit that like the people of our culture have. So yeah, there's a lot of cons to everything that we expressed, but it led up to our country like rising up to what it is today and being a booming country and you know being developed in such a short amount of time. So I do want to pay homage and respect to that because that's really hard, right? My parents' generation, like all they had was like they had to eat something called like what is it called? It's like sujebi, which is basically like flour made.
It's like a dough soup.
Yeah, but it's because like during the war or whatever, like there was limited resources that they got from other countries, so they started making like food from like nothing.
Yeah,
and so that's like a poor person's food. So back in the day. And I freaking like sujebi. Yeah. But for them, it's like a weird learning. Yeah. But coming from that to like what it is, you know, with booming Korean culture, booming music and media, and like us getting more recognition in like these westernized settings, and it being more widespread, like with everything else, it's like I'm so proud. Like even though I'm not good at Korean. Like every time we win a reward or something, I'm like, yeah,
I know.
Or like in Korean culture, soccer is like a big deal.
Yeah.
And
World Cup.
And I remember like when I was younger, like we made the World Cup 1 year or something, and the time difference is wild. But we would be up at like 3 a.m. and like root for our team. And like I think we as a culture are very big on like you know. Yay, Team Korea, you know, rooting for us. But also we're very like self-aware that we do have, you know, things to work on as a culture.
Sure. I think another pain point that I can think of off the bat too, just because we also hopefully people have listened to our conversation on disability. But I think that's a big thing too that resonates is that disability is so strongly stigmatized in Korea. I'm hoping that there's been progress, and I'm sure that progress is being made, but I feel like just in Asian American cultures in general, like there's so much more stigma on disability that I even see it here because it's like even though we're in America, a lot of Asian American families don't know how to find help and or refuse to find help. I see a lot of Asian American families in denial and things like that. It just like makes me really sad because it's just kind of like, dude, like this isn't the worst thing in the world, but and also your child needs help. Yeah. And it's like you go to Korea, I heard like you won't see anyone with a disability walking the streets because they will be behind closed doors.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, I think also like, and I think Seoul, like in general, is not a very accessible city. Yeah, like my friends go there with babies, and it's hard for them to go around with babies because there's nowhere for strollers. Like there's no ramps, there's no nothing.
So not accessible. It makes me sad.
Yeah, if it's not accessible to babies, it's not accessible to disabled people. It's just
or like even older, like
elders too.
Like you know, like when I went like not too long ago, like that's something that I noticed right off the bat. It's like everything has stairs. Things are narrow. There's no accessible locations. I'm like, if there's even a disabled person, which I didn't think there were, because I never was exposed to them, I'm like, how do they get around?
Yeah.
And also,
they stay home. It's sad.
In Korea, like, it's a very subway system oriented place, so you have to keep like walking, and like, you know, it's a buzzing city, so like it's jam packed, and like you have to navigate all those streets, and like even for me as a traveler, it's so hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Yeah. And also another one, Korean culture kind of doesn't talk about mental health,
and
like that's a big thing too, where like, you know, it can be a debilitating thing, but it's kind of like a hush hush thing. Like,
it's mental health is also stigmatized, but also like, I don't know if you ever heard this from your parents, but like, like this is very Asian American and Christian niche, but like our parents would always be like, you can pray the depression away. Kind of like very like, you're not depressed, you just need to pray.
And like just sleep it off.
No, literally. That's like so crazy. Yeah. But it's like, that's kind of what we would be told, is that like, if you're depressed, it's on you. It's like you're being lazy.
Yeah.
You're just sleeping and you're just not doing the work, kind of thing. And it's just really sad. It's kind of
like I mentioned this in episode 8 when I was talking about my disability, but when I brought up to like my mom about like wanting to have therapy, I remember she was like, I don't really get it, but if you need it, like, yeah. And I think that was in their own way progressive, because like she doesn't understand what I mean when I'm like, you know, but I was like literally at my wit's end, and she was like, okay, like, if you need it, I'll just do it. But she was like confused. Yeah. And because it's just like not talked about. Yeah. And like, I don't think she knew how to navigate that.
I think I talk about how like, or I never talked about, but like back in high school, or my senior year of high school, like, I don't think I've ever fully experienced depression, like at its height. But I had depressive episodes, I think. And that was my first time feeling that way in high school. I think it was just a lot of navigating a lot of change. I think I was very overwhelmed, anticipating college, and like, because I think like all throughout your life, like K through 8, K through 12, like you have a Monday through Friday system of like going to school every day. That's your life. And I'm very routine based. So the thought of going to college and not having class every day and not being close to my friends, not being close to my family was like really messing with me. And so I kind of like, I think I was like a little bit depressed. I don't want to like diagnose myself nor say I was fully depressed. But yeah, I struggled with my appetite. I struggled with just like connecting with people. I didn't want to talk to my family a lot. And I just like was struggling. And then my mom would be like, you need to pray. Go to your room. And she'd be like, you're not depressed. This is spiritual battle. Go pray. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, and like back then I didn't know any better. I'm like, okay, yes, I need to pray more. I just need to feel better. And like, I think to an extent, yes, there are like spiritual components to when you're battling like that. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. I wish, you know, like, I'm like, man, I think I was a little bit depressed. But it took me a while to like kind of, in hindsight, figure that out. But, you know, at the time, it's like, my parents were just like, you're being a horrible daughter. You're not talking to us. You're not eating. And I'm like, dude, I was depressed a little bit, and like they didn't know, and I didn't know, and we didn't know how to navigate something like that. So that's just my experience, you know, with like
so convoluted, because it's like because it's not talked about in our culture. Like, I think our jobs as Gen Z and millennials now is like taking the good parts of our culture and kind of reworking the things that are, you know, not like good for us. That we're trying to rework from years and years of
ending the cycle.
Cultural aspects.
It's like a battle of like ending the toxic cycles while also trying to carry on traditions and pieces of our culture that we want to pass on to our kids. And like, how do we keep this alive? And how do we like even just the Korean language. Like I suck at Korean and I want Levi to learn Korean, but at the same time, it's just like I can't do it. And like now he's just a fully English speaking little baby, and I'm like I have failed. Like and it's just like
literally we have friends that are true bilingual individuals, and I'm so jealous.
I'm so jealous.
So jealous.
I have friends with kids who their kids are fully speaking Korean, and then Levi can't communicate because he's like, "Hi, Levi. What you want? What are you doing?" And they're like, "What? Oh,
what?
Like it's Korean, and I'm like, "Oh man, like I'm losing my There's just the
that's what I'm scared of too, because I'm also not good at Korean, and also like I feel like I'm gonna lose the language, number one, but also there's like a lot of cultural holidays that like I'm only reminded because my mom keeps on to us, but like for example, like Thanksgiving is November for Western, but in Korean culture I think it's September.
Yeah, it's like a more fall.
Yeah, and it's like on the one hand, it's like I don't think I appreciated it when I was younger, but now I'm like, like I do like those like little cultural things that we get to do, to celebrate, our elders and whatever. But I'm like, I can't keep up,
I know.
A lot of different things. I forgot about Pepperoni, to be honest with you.
I know.
Until I was with a friend during my most recent trip, and she's married, and she got 2 boxes of pepperoni, and I was like, oh. It was like a really cute note, like happy pepperoni day. I'm like, great, I wouldn't have known that because I don't have anyone right now. So, there's a lot of things I missed too. So you missed it, but I missed it too. So what does that say about you? And you have a whole
but oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, I guess like the one thing I want us to like ask and think about is what is a tradition or something about Korean culture that you want to break? I guess like what's a cycle you want to break? At least maybe it's specific to your family, and then what's something you want to pass on to your children, or I know we talked about having children or not, but if you were to pass on to your future children, what that would look like.
How about you go first? Because I need some time to marinate.
Yeah, I mean, me too, but I think something that Ben and I have tried to be more intentional with is like showing our affection and our love. And I think something I'm so grateful is that I had, like when I mentioned a lot of people struggled with fathers who didn't say I love you, I was really grateful to have a dad who was very affectionate. And so I'm really grateful for that, and I'm grateful to be able to pass that on, but also to see Ben want to do that too. And see how Ben is so affectionate with Levi, and so like always saying I love you. And I think that, and also I think also how we do conflict, because I think that's like we don't address conflict well, I think, in immigrant family homes.
You just
when they say sorry, when they say I love you or sorry, they
all
bring
they wanted was I'm sorry, but they give you freaking fruit, which I understand. I'm like, just say the dang word.
I know. I think we're really bad at saying sorry. We're bad at apologizing, confronting, and communicating when there's conflict in our homes. And I think that's something that me and Ben are trying to be very intentional with our kid, is being like, we even apologize. So I'm sorry, I yelled at you.
That's good.
And being more like using our words and our language. And so I think that's something that we try to cut off and change.
Okay.
In terms of what I want to pass on that I learned from my family, I don't know. I think the respect of elders is really important. Like, I think it's important for Levi to, if he were to have a sibling, that sibling call Levi oppa or hyung or whatever, like older, like address them in a certain way. And I want Levi to bow to his elders as we do. I think that's really important. Like, in Korean culture, we bow. We say, 안녕하세요. Like, that's how we greet our elders, as we bow to them. I think that's such a beautiful thing that I wanted to continue carry on.
It reminds me of, for anyone who watched Elemental, the ending scene. You know what I'm talking
Tears.
about. You know what I'm talking
Tears.
about? Don't look that up. Look that up.
Elemental. Elemental's an immigrant story for those who don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, literally that, and I think also just this love for Korean food. I'm so thankful we live in a world where now everyone's eating seaweed snacks. Like, we like to have seaweed snacks at school whenever he wants, and be proud of kimchi and his food. Yeah.
Watch, you're gonna pack him KBBQ.
I know.
So jealous, you know. Yeah. As we're talking, actually, I'm gonna go kind of a interesting direction. I think one thing I want to break is women doing everything in the household. Yeah, I want it to be like I want it to be equal. Because I think in my household, like, you know, which I also respect. My dad's like the handyman. He fixes everything. He does all the whatever. And then, you know, my mom, she helps with the household, right? And it's good, but sometimes I'm like, you know, he's waiting to get the rice. I'm like, you could pick up the rice, you know? But I'm like, that's what I want. Like, I just want, like, okay, like, hey, I'm tired today. Like, you can do the food or whatever. Yeah. I can't cook, but I'll like to go as food, you know? Yeah. But like, I think I would break like expectations of like what a man and a woman should do. And I think that's like where my quote unquote feminist side comes from. Of like things can be shared, or like, you know, when you feel like you're giving 20, the other person gives 80. Like that kind of I think it fits me more. Which is why I feel like I identify with my Western identity and also Korean identity in different aspects. You know, it's not even split at 50-50. And then for things I want to keep, I think like the culture that is behind like our New Year's, like you know, the bowing thing that you mentioned, which is basically like as the New Year comes, New Year's for us as a culture, it's like about bringing prosperity and luck in the new year and like blessings. So when you're younger, you bow to your elders, and you know they exchange words of encouragement, and you get a little moolah. You know, you can save that for cash for something down the line. But like I think the cultural importance of like why we do that, and also we eat something called like rice cake soup, which is like tteokguk, which is more to add on to that prosperity kind of like messaging. And I think it's a beautiful thing, like, where like there's a reasoning of why we do things like that. And I think also like there is an element of like, well, it's like complex, but I think in our culture, like as kids, we want to always give back to our parents for everything they've done for us. Like we always feel, or I feel indebted. Yeah. So I feel like let me just make you know things happen for them, and like it's a lot of weight on our shoulders. Yes, but I also love the fact that like we don't like they like carry us till like we're older. Yeah. So like in Korean culture, like you don't really necessarily leave the house until you're married. Yeah. And so, like, they care for you until that point. And so, like, I feel like there's a role reversal down the line of, like, taking care of parents, like you mentioned in our grief episode. And I think there's something beautiful about just, like, having our parents, like, sacrifice so much of themselves and, like, us just giving, like, 2% of that back. And, like, that I feel like makes you more compassionate individual, a more compassionate, like loving individual that, I think I find beautiful that I want to preserve too. And also the food. Yes. Food is bomb.com.
I think we need to do a better job of learning like how to make Korean food so that like again, it doesn't have to always be the woman, but just as people, as Korean people, like I just want to get better at making Korean food. like make that for my children.
I've literally never made kimchi before.
Oh, kimchi? Me either.
Kimchi is fermented cabbage. For those who don't know, you eat that as a side dish with like rice or like ramen, for instance. And like my parents, like they be like, you know, getting a head of cabbage, putting all the pastings on it, like
It's like an
It's
art.
a labor of
it's
love.
a labor of love.
Yeah.
It's an experience.
I've never done it before, but I know our friends' parents have done it with them. I'm like, oh,
I know. That's
we'll learn. We'll
We
learn
need to do a
to see.
kimchi making class.
Yes. Thank you for joining us.
No,
on this
let's
fun episode.
kombe. So cheers in Korean is kombe. So we'll kombe our ramen cups.
Ramen cups.
Kombe. Cheers. Jan.
Until the last
Until the
episode.
next one. Woo! Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.